Hello everyone, it's Terry from the Creative Bush Homestead. So for this video, I thought I'd show you how my thread organizer turned out. If you'd watched my last video, you would have seen that my original thread organizers, which were made by Loran, were really starting to break up, and I had put them together with some tape. I was a little worried that eventually I wouldn't be able to repair this plastic if it started to go in other places, and as we all know, tape doesn't always last forever. So hence I decided to take some leather that had belonged to my husband's parents in a couch and make a new folder for my threads. So this is the end result. I had to iron the leather, and then I just folded it and punched some holes in it so the rings could go through. Yeah, I've got a few biro marks that were left, but I will find a way to cover them. Okay, so it basically was quite easy. So that's the actual thread list where I find my cottons. So if I want a green colour and I know that the number is 367, then obviously I just go to the first card, look for 367, which is the top one, and then I'm able to draw out just the right amount of cotton for me to use. I'll just take this one out. I can always replace it. Now, I found that using floss and rolling it onto the little cards always left with a lot of crinkles, whereas this way the floss is reasonably straight and this length is actually perfect for when I do embroidery. I'm not cutting odd lengths. And yes, I do end up like most people do with a little bit of excess, but then I put that into a little container, and if I can use it later, I do. So basically, this is my way of looking after my DMC flosses. I will eventually do a bit of stitching on here, though I've decided not to stitch it fully, but just to stitch it a little bit at the end, and that will be done on an old Pinnock sewing machine that I have, which is much more sturdier than the new computerized sewing machines that you get these days. So that is my finished DMC thread folder, and I'm quite pleased with the way it turned out. I haven't decided how that actually goes underneath there. I haven't decided how I'm going to finish it off. I may use my Cricut machine and use some iron-on vinyl to mark on it what it is. I might be able to do some decorative on it and maybe some rings around to cover my biro marks. The only problem with the leather was that it was very creased, and I had to iron it. So bear with me and I will show you a piece that I have ironed. Okay, so this is a piece of leather that I have ironed. I used a damp cloth on the suede side, which helped. This was very, very crinkly, which helped get most of the crinkles out, because the way it was stored, I didn't think to roll it. Whereas I've actually rolled the pieces that were left over so that I can use them for future things. So I think by rolling them, there's a little bit of thread that was left from when I seam ripped. I managed to do it without, cutting the leather too much, which I was quite pleased with. So as you can see, the creases have been basically rolled out. The next thing I did was place an old Loran, they're called actually, thread holder or folder onto the suede side of the leather. And what I'm going to do now, even though this end ended up being a little bit shorter, that's okay because it is a fold up and the other piece is longer, so it will fold up over the other piece. So basically, then I got a biro and I used a rule. According to my mother, they were always called rules, not rulers. She used to correct me on that all the time when I was a child. So hence, I shall call it a rule, though I know that most people call them rulers now. So she was very correct with the English language. So I'm just going to try and mark on the suede side with a biro and try and get it as accurate as I possibly can. And obviously I'm going to have to keep pressing down, especially when it comes to the fold areas, because I just might flip this back a bit. They are important to get them as reasonably straight as I can. So here we go. Don't know if the camera's going to take that all the way to the edge, but I will turn the leather around, trying to keep my placement. Of what I might do is I have, this actually is an insulator from the light poles, and I don't know where I found it, but gee, I wish I'd found more, because they are marvellous for weighing down material as you're cutting or trying to draw a new folder, as I'm trying to draw on this suede leather, which I'm not very steady at holding things straight. So let's turn it around again. Hopefully that will stay. I'll just move my scissors out of the way, and my good trusty crocodile. I love this. This is so handy for doing so many things. In fact, it weighs so much, I could put it on here to make sure that the template from my old folder doesn't move around too much. So I'll just lift this up, fold that flat back because I'll be pulling that back later. And let's see how much you can see me doing. So that should keep it reasonably straight with my rule. My mother passed away when I was 19, and yeah, it was, I guess, traumatic at the time. I was young and a teenager, so as much as I was affected by it, I always remembered the advice she would give me, especially because I was a bit of a tearaway, I guess you could say, as a teenager. It was the 70s, and I just noticed that when I turn it around to do this side, it has moved over a little bit into the stitching area, but that's not really going to be a big problem because I may have to trim it more. So we'll just bring that around. I do like the curves, actually. I thought the curve gave a really nice little finish. And if I ever buy leather punches, which I think I may, I think I would enjoy doing some leather work. I do have leather needles and some leather thread. I'll just turn this around so we can do the flaps now. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this flap is going to be smaller, so we'll put it down. Oh, this must be the top. So Might be a little skew-if, but that's okay because that can be adjusted too when I'm cutting, because I'm sure that I'm cutting a little bit larger than what it actually is. It's one side of the flap, so they do move a little bit, so I'll just make sure I've got enough. I'll turn around to the other side. I hope everybody's having a good day. We've got beautiful weather here in Ginjinda, Western Australia. I have to say Western Australia because if there are any viewers from America, they may think I'm talking about WA as being, I think it's Washington that they use WA for. Okay, this one I'm just going to keep my rule straight. Okay, so that's one thing I must do that I mustn't forget is where the creases are going to be, I actually mark on that side of the leather so that I know this is where my creases are going to be. I will draw around the holes on the suede side this time so I don't have biro marks on my nice finished leather side. So I have another one to do here, which is, I don't know if you can see, I'll put it over, just another one there. I have a few more holes to mark, which I'll do with my big, I think it's called a big shot. It's from We Are Memory Keepers. I have a handheld one, which is great for doing smaller things. And I will just turn this around so that I can do the marking on the other side. And I do have quite a few tools from We Are Memory Keepers. And of course I've marked the inside of the plastic folder, but I'm not too worried about that because I have a lot of cottons that I've just put on rings. They're a lot of odds and, you know, odd cottons that just marking in the folds. Odd cottons that I've collected over the years from Anchor and Senko and lots of other different companies. So there we go. There's the actual leather marked out for cutting. Now probably I shouldn't use that one, just looking at how straight that one is. If I had a T-square, which I do have a little T-square, I could line that up better because I think it went a bit skew-if. Found my little T-square, so let's see how we go for lining that up. Well, it's not too bad, but I still would prefer it to be a little bit straighter in line with the line that's there. So you may not be able to see me ruling the rest. Let's have a look at this side. I think this side's pretty good. Yeah, but it's not too bad. Okay, now probably wouldn't recommend everybody uses a dressmaking scissors if they're going to do leather work, but these weren't terribly expensive ones. I have had many dressmaking scissors in the past. These ones are from Lincraft, which were on special, and I thought they're pretty sharp. I have a daughter, my youngest daughter, Annalise, and Annalise loved scissors, so hence Annalise got the name Annalise Scissorhands. If she wasn't cutting paper, she was cutting material. She was always cutting something. Now the funny thing is, Annalise, I'm going to just cut this while I speak. Annalise is very musical, has an amazing voice, has had recordings where she has featured on other people's music. She was in a music video that actually won a Triple J award many years ago. And yes, I do have some of the songs that she sang for that particular musician. Now, so we always thought Annalise is definitely going to be musical. She plays quite a few instruments. She started at high school in year 8 learning the clarinet, which I thought was great because it gave her a chance to learn how to read music, and that would be very helpful for her if she ever wanted to play other instruments. Because I'm a great believer that if you can read music, the playing of other instruments is just an adaptation of reading that music. We have quite a musical family. Her uncle was a musician in a band, and he had a pretty amazing voice. My mum actually had a really amazing voice. I have what I'd call a mediocre voice, but I have sung in the past. Anyway, getting back to Annalise Scissorhands. So hence, we always thought she would be in the music industry in, you know, with her singing or something like that. So she has been working, and she's been working, I will save these pieces, I will roll them up and tie them with a ribbon so they don't have to be pressed again. Okay, so obviously the music industry isn't going to put bread and butter on your table all the time. So she ended up getting a job as a public servant and has had other various jobs. And then all of a sudden she said, "Mum, this is just this year," which was a bit of a shock, "I want to be a hairdresser." And I thought, goodness me, your older sister Tiffany, the earring princess, is a hairdresser by trade. Wow, that was such a statement that shocked me, because one thing I never thought of Annalise as being was a hairdresser. So I'm thinking now the name Annalise Scissorhands is very apt, because she is going to have scissors in her hands for the rest of her career. So I actually thought that was amazing. As you know, I cut my own hair. My daughters, well, Annalise lives in Melbourne, so she's not going to be able to do much with my hair. And Tiffany, the earring princess, as I keep referring to her, actually lives about 2 hours south of where I live, so I just can't rush down there when I decide that I need a new hairdo. So, okay, we've cut it all out. Now, the next step. So my next step now is to get my big shot over those ring holes that I've made and just punch them in. So I'm just making sure, you probably can't see, there goes another one. They're not going to be perfect, because I'm punching them from the other side. But what I might do is, this is how amazing, I mean, this can go through so many layers of, now I'm just going to put it in like that and just turn it on its side and punch it down. So that's been done. And then I'll continue on to do the others. I have to line it up so that I can see where the actual hole punch is coming through. Now the holes just aren't as neat. So what I might do is take it to the other side of the leather now that I know where the holes are, line them up and see if I can get a neater punch hole. No, not really. But that's okay, because rings go through them. So it's not going to be a real biggie. The hardest part, I think, oh, what a shock. I never thought that I could roll that. Look, goes all the way through. The last time I punched the last holes, I actually folded it all and punched them all at once because I didn't realise that my punch had a throat long enough for me to get to the middle ones. Now I use this punch also for when I'm doing journaling. It's not the best hole, and it goes through quite a few layers of pages when I'm journaling, so I'm so happy with this. But obviously we're going through leather, we're not going through the side that will be visible, so the punch isn't going to really make a clear, nice, see, it's a little, but that's okay because, I mean, it's holding threads. It's not holding the Magna Carta. And for those of you who don't know what the Magna Carta is, I suggest you Google it. Something we learnt about in high school many years ago for me. And let's see, sometimes you just got to see the punch over the holes to punch the holes in. This is going to be interesting. Oh yeah, that's fine. I'm thinking, oh, that hole looked a bit far away from where I'm going to be punching. It's always a little tricky, making sure that the punch is actually over the holes that you want to punch. So yeah, I've had a good week. I mean, Glenn's coming along with the laundry. Probably not as fast as I would like because I'm really getting sick and tired of washing with that little tiny washing machine. Okay, so here we go. We fold these over, and as you can see, they're not terribly straight, but we can straighten that up later. That's not a biggie. So there's a fold there. I've put a fold for the edge there, so that edge will get straightened up. But just for the purpose of this video, let's see, and obviously that needs to be a straighter edge too. So now we've got to work out the folds. So that folds like that. Get the holes lined up. Might be helpful if I actually use a ring or the rings. And I don't know, these are the rings that go through it. That one's a little bit, is it smaller? Yeah, a little bit smaller, but that's okay. So basically, we have a fold there. Try and line up the holes if I can see the green. Yeah, that's not too bad. Then we have another fold here. So I'm just going to put the rings through those, this ring through those folds. That's not too bad. Okay, I'll put this ring through these folds. How are we going? Yeah, I can't actually see what my hands are doing. Now I should have another ring somewhere. Oh, I'll take it out of this one, seeing as this is no longer going to be, well, it will be used. It will be used for, like I said, my non-DMC cottons. I do love my DMCs. And not that the other cottons are inferior or anything, it's just the colour range. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so I actually have some threads that is, what I have done, what I did do, reaching over, what I did do with this one, I did press it just to get the folds a little bit sharper, and I will be doing that after this video for times and run away from you. So I'll be straightening up the edges, and then, what number is this? Number 4. Okay, so we have some cottons here that are on the rings. I'm just going to take them out. As you can see, I have numbered them and I have marked whether they're blacks and whites or greens or yellows. Oh, that all came out. That's okay. That's what I wanted. I just wanted you to see the setting up and the value of having this as being leather for me is fantastic. This will keep my cottons in good shape for many years to come. So I'm just bringing the rings up like this. And we'll put the carded cottons in. So I have been able to copy some of these MasterCards because, as I said in my last video, these particular Loran thread holders, or folders as I call them, are no longer available and are considered vintage and very expensive at that. And I thought, well, this really is a good way to use up some leather that I had and keep my cottons in a nice leather holder instead of the plastic. I'm quite pleased with how they turned out because, you know, I like to recycle, reuse and reinvent when I can. I think if we could stop using the amount of plastics that are everywhere and find other ways to use as a functional. I'm just going to shake these down, which is what I normally do after I've used them. Quite easy. Just get your fingers and shake the cottons out, which keeps them nice and straight for when I go to get some more. And then just lay them flat like that. That's sufficient. And then that comes over and that holds the cotton in place. These will be coming over to hold that in place. Then that folds over like that. And once I iron it, it'll be nice, and then we actually, if I haven't done something wrong, get the bulky ends of the rings through, which I have, and voila, there we have another neat case for my cottons. So I will be doing a curve on there. I will be straightening them up a bit as I've done with this one. So there we go. 2 down, 1 more to go for my DMC threads, and then I will be using these for my Anchor and Semco and my other threads. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Just a simple one, I guess you could say, and it's, like I said, about reusing, reinventing and recycling. So this has been a good use for some leather that could have stayed in my cupboard for many years, well, at least until Glenn unseizes my pinnock, because it hadn't been used for a while, and I think it just needs good grease and oil change. It's an amazing machine. It's an older machine, so I shouldn't have any problems going through this leather, as I said. Gee, I'm so pleased with that. That's just looking so much neater now. There's my thread list, as I showed you before. Oh, I am just chuffed. I'm so chuffed that I was able to use this old leather from the leather lounge of my parents-in-law that probably was bought in the mid-60s. So it's probably what I'd call vintage leather. If that's sewn, that wouldn't fall out, would it? No, it wouldn't. Yeah, so if you enjoyed watching this little demonstration of how I have reused this leather for my DMC threads, please give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you didn't find it that enjoyable. And if you'd like to see what else I'm up to in my next video, by all means, please subscribe. And if you really want to know when I'm doing my next video, then of course you can press the notifications. But I'm so pleased with this. I just couldn't think of a better way to keep my cottons safe and clean and dust free. Okay, everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.